my colleagues. They're just trying to live. And I hope it's for all of you okay. They want to know who they are talking to.
Yeah, of course.
That I just
It makes sense.
did the camera on your perspective.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
But I was saying because there's something written there about your microphone.
Yeah, that is just too loud. But this is like what they want, I guess. This is how we disturb each other in daily life. All right, okay. So then we are going to start. My name is Jan. I'm part of RaumZeitPiraten, an artist group working since 15 years as a group of 3. And then I will just hand you to the digital other part of the group that they can say hello to all of you. Toby?
Oh, this already wants the handover. Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Toby. Yeah, glad to be with you at least digitally. And Jan will be there.
Up there in the corner.
Yes, hello. I hope you can understand me.
Even though before the pandemic times we used to work like that because, yeah, spread over 3 cities. So we were really used to it when, yeah, the whole pandemic situation came up and everyone was totally running crazy and got super stressed and tired of like video conferences. And we were like already in that stress before. Yeah, as I already told, we are working since 15 years at the group. And when we have been invited to Bilbao, we get like 3 general topics, which we then, in preparations, thought about, like, what would be like the main thing we would like to focus on. And then we realized that there is not a main thing to focus on, because a lot of our projects interfering in all these topics. Some are more in the, I would say, like artifacts or the technology and body question, and others are more in the performance art. So we will show you in the next 1.5 hours some videos and works that we did in the past years. And you have maybe to find out yourself which topic is more fitting into this or that project. And I would like to invite you, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate and just jump in and we can have an open discourse or something like that. What are you up for? So I do have made like a little translation. I hope it isn't too bad, but I'm pretty sure it is. This is one thing that we normally have in English on our webpage, where you can, yeah, it is more a little bit about our structure, how we are going to plan projects and how to adapt to the surrounding world. And this is, I would say, like a general statement which leads us to different projects over the time. Anything you want to add to that? Yeah, we have to, because that's a bit of strange then, because normally we are all on the same digital way, and if there is like a real person in front, we have to figure out like how can that happen. So then,
I have to admit my Spanish.
So now then, I think I just jump into the first project we want to show you tonight. This is the Shadow Play Automates, the narrations of an unknown alchemist. And for that project, we have been asked from a museum that collects cultural stuff from the whole world, from different ages, and they ask us to grab stuff from their huge collection and try to work with it as we like to do. And in the end, something like that came up. In between, you see like a lot of these laboratory and alum pipes and some of these structure. We are always working with stuff like that, as you can also see like stuff like that, and what you build in 3D printer, like the toolbox that you showed us earlier. And here's another example of it. And to make it a bit more lively, I would just play it as a video. Imagination of it. Stuff like that historical material with like trashy plastic material that we just found on the street or stumble over it with like really old objects. So we are going now to the Instrumentalgespinst. Sometimes we do have like a lot of kind of untranslatable German words in between. And in some cases we do not translate it at all because it doesn't make sense, and the sounding of the words, and we keep it like that. And sometimes it's also really funny if people even speak it out loud, makes sense as well. So this is an electromechanical opto-acoustic orchestra, and the base of it is that we just stumbled on the streets, or somebody handed us like an old broken instrument or old broken instrument parts, and this is something that we are going then to manipulate, build like little circuitry around it, get light with them, and the one of the, I would say, like the part in the exhibition then is that the player, the visitor, is becoming the player of the instrument, because we work with a lot of sensors, and you have to pass through the installation to make them become, play themselves. And then we do have, like, of course, light sensors. So if you triggered the first instrument, then it's becoming like a natural composition, that the light that you triggered first is going to throw the light shine to the next instrument, will set like a light sensor, for example, and then it starts like a composition. And wherever you stand or you build a shadow with your own body, then you you are manipulating, and you be part of the composition. One of the next steps was like that we start thinking about a notation which is in itself a circuitry. So we then built like little analog circuits which are placed on a notation sheet, and so you can or you cannot follow up kind of the notes that are going to be played. And this was a trio that we built, but of course we have a lot of loose ends instruments which we up on the space we've been invited, we arrange like make a composition with the whole instruments that we do have, or we start rebuilding new ones.
So maybe one word so that you can understand a bit better what
so an ongoing series.
So maybe we should mention that we are
skipped it because I think we took a long time on that project. There's still a last picture of the same situation, almost the same situation you saw in the video. Yeah, let's go to the next one, the parasites. I don't know if that makes sense from the translation as well, but there's no system without the parasite. That's the only law. And that's site-specific light sculptures that we are doing since kind of very long. Maybe Toby is going to explain a little the concept.
This one is This whole thing is just like made of these magnifying glasses that are mounted in front of a lamp. For example, in some museum or some gallery, you have all these lamps, and you only use them to highlight the artwork, to make light and to make the room bright. And so this one is taking it back. So this parasite is docked onto this museum lamp, and then projects what's inside of this lamp. So actually, the lamp itself gets the center of the art piece, and then you have really interesting stuff going on in these lamps. So here in my background, you see like the different layers of stuff. You have the glass thing and the bulb itself, and then you have some grid in front, and suddenly you have like a very complex layering going on in this one single exhibition lamp. And then in front you have our light parasite, and it's so it's getting unclear here or blurred whether what is the artwork and what was the artwork, or is it like the projection, the light and shadow play, or is it the light parasite, the sculpture itself, or is it the lamp, or is it everything together? And suddenly, like everything fell apart somehow, and made sense in itself in a new way. So we learn to love parasites in a way, because they shift like the perception of reality and stuff. And so this was kind of like a very interesting project to get really analog, and then learn some really new approaches, at least for us, new. Because the other funny thing is that this project you could have built like hundreds of years ago. Like when the first lenses were built, you could have built light parasites, but it wasn't built. So again, we have some weird reconstruction of historical elements, and yeah.
And what I wanted to say before is that we started in this time or already earlier with our approach to not change the exhibition room or the space where we are constructing. This time that we are in invasive, how is it called? We're not putting a screen in there, or we are painting the walls because they are like this or like that. We just take the room as it is and start to change it, to change the perception, change the feeling of the room just by adding stuff. What we take apart or take away afterwards, after the exhibition again. So this is a very important approach, just to change by adding and not by destroying or whatever.
And slowly was our approach into the rhizomatic sculpturing, so to the very how to say, interconnected forms and very chaotic, or maybe chaotic. Maybe it's just on the outside looking chaotic, but then it's like in this case here with the lenses, it's a very strict system in a way, because you have the light going quite straight, and then it has to go through the lamp, through the lens, and to find the right focus points inside the lamp. And but then it can have very complex, interesting structures if you stop to follow these right angle stuff and things. We're coming to that later, I guess. But this was kind of 2009 or 8 or something, and it's somehow started this love for very chaotic structures, and then we found some interesting texts from Deleuze, for example, like the Rhizome, where suddenly we found some thinker who had this psychological background for these structures and forms we began to love.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the next one. The next one is a participative project which we often do in museums and other occasions, but and it looks a little bit like that. And so as collectors and working constantly with like laboratory materials, we just start like with a basement ground structure, I would say, and have like I don't know if you can see that right over here and here. There are just like hundreds and hundreds of these mounting tools and like lamps, magnifying glasses, lenses, and whatsoever you need to build a very simple analog projector. And then we collect like hundreds of these Petri dishes, which are used in the laboratory as well. And we, I don't know, collect like stuff found on the streets, like little roots, plants, insects, dead insects, most of the time, and a lot of this stuff, and just put it on the floor and let people build little projectors in an open museum space, which is also pretty interesting to see, like in some of the bigger museums, like how people react and start getting like, okay, I can touch this, because most of the other rooms you can't touch a thing. And this is also like a playful situation with the, yeah, how to say, like with the status of the art institution itself, I would say. So this is just a little quick around view. So here you can see it a bit more clear. From down to top, you do have the light source. Then there's that Petri dish with the material. Then there is the magnifying lens, and quite often, which you can't see now, is a mirror to focus or like to switch the situation where you want to project to.
So opening a projector like this means also to understand it, so you can physically understand how it's working, and it's not so easy in the beginning. The first time you're doing it, you will always change or be confused by the direction light goes. But it's a very important approach to open stuff and to not hide the things. So people can go in there, do it themselves, or just look how we are doing it. And they can understand it if they just follow the lines, follow the cables, follow the circuits, and so on. It's all open. And this is very, very important for us to not hide stuff, not hiding anything in cases or wherever, but open it so everyone can read it if you like so.
Yes, this was also like a point, this love for open systems, like for something you can look at, and it may be complex and it may be like confusing, but if you take your time and the approach of wanting to know, then you can. So it is possible to just look at the stuff and take your time and then realize how it works. And so some people had really had fun like quite fast, and some people were like, oh my, what's happening here? What is all this stuff and how? I have no idea how to do that. But it's more like a state of mind. Like if you take your time, you can. And we like this kind of artworks that you can just by looking at and trying to understand what's happening. You can, and not this. Like we're not a great fan of artworks having like complex setups, where, let's say, some projection and the central piece is the projection, but then you have like huge video beamers, video projectors hidden somewhere in some black box, and some really strong computer in the background doing some really interesting stuff, and then you have this projection. I mean, you have really beautiful artworks with these kind of systems. But we don't like the whole part of hiding the technology that produces these artworks. And so we decided to have the technology itself in the center of the art. And here it was one approach to have the participation, to invite people to have a quite very easy technology, like how the first projectors were built. And so it's kind of not very complex, but then it's through participation, through social interaction, you suddenly create some new forms, because everybody is working on one project. And if only everybody builds one projector in his style and in his place in this whole installation, and suddenly you have a very complex system, a very beautiful open system.
Yeah, and sometimes stressing out directors of art institutions can be fun too. Yeah, next thing. This is the Octopus Garden, which is a multimedia environment that we did on different festivals. Most of the time it's like outdoors, but it doesn't have to be outdoors, but we did it like, did we do Octopus Garden inside? I mean, somehow you're always inside, even if it's outside, which will hopefully show like the next situations. These are a lot of like different modules of projectors, kinetic instruments, with sensors that you walk through installation like that, and stuff start moving and making light. I will just play the video that you can get an idea of it. Maybe just as one example of what you saw on the last picture, that is we call it the GIF-Meister. It's an analog shadow sequencer, which you can see here a little bit more in detail. It has like 24 projectors, and we use like little, where do I have it? Yeah, just like, we call it like the croco clamp. I don't know if it's like the right name for it. Where you can like attach like little objects, for example, like that. And so we have 24 of those, which runs in the sequence, and then you can also like a pre-cinematic instrument that you can make a kind of animation through that if you have like 24 of the same objects, and you have to be very precise in mounting them, and then it can be like a really constant flowing going on shadow play. So this is one of the lot of instruments that can be a part of an Octopus Garden, but it doesn't have to be. This is a gallery in Vienna where we showed it some years ago. I think shortly after invention. Yeah. Something I miss for that one?
No, but maybe something to add, but it's always something to add somewhere.
Yes. Sure.
Like this, like Jan mentioned a bit, the Octopus Garden is somehow our private playground, and then a very public playground. In my background, it's a cave underneath Jerusalem, and we use this Octopus Garden. It's like an outdoors installation, if we count a cave as outdoors. So yeah, and we always have like having new. Everything that we create can grow into this Octopus Garden somehow. It has to be a bit like weatherproof, and then it's like always a new constellation. So it's never like really nearly no of our work. Nothing of our works is kind of a constant thing. So this Octopus Garden is always like created new with new stuff. We build new, and with also really old stuff, and combining it and destroying it and rebuilding it and recombining it. And so it's kind of a ever-changing, always like a growing installation you can walk through, and so it's more like an environment. So it's a whole environment made of small installations you can interact with, but only like with your presence. Because one thing we learned about participation and interaction is kind of you have to be careful where and when you show artworks like this. For example, in Jerusalem, in this cave, or when we had something in India, you have very different cultural ideas about how you behave when you see art or something that interests you. And some countries I really like that, but some countries you really get touchy and want to have everything and work with it. But it's somehow a sign of that they like your work. But for an artist, it can be a pain because it also means that it will be destroyed. And so it's a big playground for us and also a testing range somehow.
Yeah, we are coming to the mobile systems. Now we are going to show you a kind of evolution of our mostly outdoors and mobile installations or systems that we invented, because it has really like it has been a flow for us. I don't know if you see that the same way we did, but let's see.
The cyclocopters are custom-built, light and sound-emitting vehicles for urban interventions.
Different models of old freight bicycles were modified and customized towards mobile opto-acoustic systems that can be used to board and transform public spaces.
Invited people with bikes or just like bypassers to follow us, and we were doing like city tours with the bikes, and we just stopped like on abandoned places or like on interesting walls with an interesting surface. We think about like here we can do a nice collage, or and then we just stop by and almost in our works you can see the instrument or the machine, the sculpture itself, being also a shadow play in the whole collage. I don't know if you mentioned that before, but it's always there. Here you can see it quite clear. And yeah, that was kind of a starting point for us, like to think about like mobile interventions into the city. And so we came up with the, it's kind of long time ago, 2014. That was the starting point, and then we start thinking about getting smaller, getting more mobile, or some of the bike things we didn't like that much. We were like too fast, and it was like not easy to follow up without a bike and stuff like that. So we just think about what have we done there and what have we started there. So then we came like to the next thing, which I'm pretty sure I have as well, again, a pretty shitty translation. Here the same Hacken Porsche, I don't know the English word as well, it is like that part of the foot. And Porsche, you know what a Porsche is. In the area we used to live, like old people call a shopping trolley like that. It's like a Porsche for your, where you have your shopping stuff with you. So then we started building these machines.
And as you can, maybe you're already familiar with our optical aesthetics. In these machines there is always also sound, and the sound is or music maybe also. The sound is always made very analog, and by microphones, pickups, and often we took the sound from the place itself, and maybe with some looping and effects, whatever, use the sound on site to produce a sound environment. Yeah.
I think we have a little video example as well. For example, we don't collect stuff before. We just, that was an invitation to Ljubljana in that case, and we came without like any material to make a projection. That was part of the run through the city, that we are picking stuff, and then it becomes like part of the where we have been before and what is like, and we start like looking super concentrated on like daily stuff, like little plants, little plastic trashy things on the street, and become super focused on this material and how and on the ability of that things for a projection, for a proper projection, which is super interesting because in the meantime it is like a huge collection of trash, of course, but it's kind of our archive which grows from time to time very strong. So after we did that, we got an invitation to the Medina of Tunis in Tunisia. And
wait.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's always some like multi-layer layers going on. Jan mentioned already a lot, but we have like an interesting string beginning with the bicycles, and then with the Hacken Porsche. And before we come to the next project, because we learned later that there is some kind of a sense that, like underlying, but we didn't know when we did the bicycles and Hackenporsche. But what happened with all these technologies, it started to grow nearer and nearer to our body. Because we had this project like around us and the technology around us and working with it and having like something in front of you and designing it and sculpturing it and making these machines, and suddenly these machines came nearer and nearer, and yeah, at some point we will see later, it was okay, no spoiler here, but yes, this was kind of something started and we didn't realize at first. So sitting on the technology is quite common. I guess everybody of you used the bike before. But then we started to have our machines also to melt into these bikes, and then it was like, yeah, we wanted to have it like even more personal and nearer and have these small carts, and so the performance was also something different. With the bikes, you go through the city and have people with you, and then you stop and do something, and then you go again and you stop. And with the Hackenporsche, you are even slower. You're on the level of walking and dragging this thing behind you, and then doing small performances in some dirty corner of some city, and then you walk away, and people stop and wonder what's happening, and some people really like it and enjoy and come with us, and then they leave again. And so some really interesting, nice private social interactions happened and started. And we learned that it's that you need time and slowness for interaction somehow. So.
Yeah.
Okay, now we can go to the tools.
All right. So now, as I mentioned earlier, the chayel, which is a Arabic word for like old storytellers, they've been on market spaces in the Medinas of the old Arabic world and telling like people stories. And when we got the invitation, we were thinking about like how to transform these very old and yeah, most elder people in Arabic-speaking elder people know these old guys sitting around having like sometimes a little fireplace and like the atmosphere of stuff like that. And we are trying to transform that into nowadays somehow. On one hand, we would like to let people do their own collages, so we are back to the participative project. So then we built, we call it like Lichtangel, in translation would be light rod, which works like a simple analog projector again, but you can have it like on one kind of telescope stick and walk around. So we did like 2 different types of that. And then we just randomly run and get super lost, of course, in the Medina of Tunis. And we hand these little tools to the people passing by and explains a little what we are planning to do with it, but not too much, that they can explore themselves. And that's just one example picture, but I'm gonna play you the video that you can have an idea of how that has been looking. Streets and tunnels, if you don't know that, super packed.
This project was really kids had so much fun to sing for us, or people can motorbikes and make sound, and by looping it and transforming a bit, it turned out as a very, very nice sound.
Yeah, is it okay to speak over the video, or is it a problem?
I think it's okay.
Okay, yeah, I don't know how the soundscape is in your little nice cinema. What was interesting with this project is we had also this narrational string with technology getting nearer and nearer to our bodies. But then we also had what I learned for myself here even stronger than with the bicycles or the Hacken-Porsche to learn even for the participants, like randomly met them on the street somehow, and then they took stuff from the street to project it on the buildings, and sometimes on their buildings, and they're really familiar with their streets. And what happened was really interesting. They told us, or many people told us, and I also realized how they acted, like a new way of seeing their own city, a new approach of, because suddenly the whole city and every wall is your very own place to project, your very own projection screen. So what happens is you have suddenly some kind of new power to interact with the surface of the city. And it was kind of interesting. It's a really enjoyable moment to see a building we saw hundreds of times every day maybe. And then suddenly you have this small device, piece of technology in your hands, and make huge projections on it. You can have some fun with the architecture without destroying anything. This was also always an approach. If you work with light and shadow, you can have temporarily fun with something without changing it. And what changes in the end is something else. It's more like a perception part, like a psychological change when you're working with your own ideas and your own cities. And then here we also see something nice. This was special in Tunis. There was kind of a really warm interaction between the participants. They don't know each other, but then suddenly it were more and more people, and they started to give this object to the next one and explaining a bit, and then they started to play, and then they also passed it to the next one and explained. And so suddenly we had a very interesting social network created for a short temporary time in these places in between this very narrow hallways and things in the Medina.
For sure, a project like this, which was very intense, works different in different cities. So if you're, let's say, in Cologne or wherever, it will turn out totally different. And, so it was in Tunis. It was very, very intense, very nice.
Okay. So far, any questions have arisen, or should we just continue?
I just have one question. You put a lot of emphasis on the beginning when you change from the laptops, the black box, to the more open analog, like honest in a kind of way, like from the closed system to a very open one using technology.
Yes.
What was the thing that triggered that? That change from the laptop, the hidden box? Because you put you insist a lot in this chain that also the exhibition, the technology, that is always the technology that is high, but you want to show how it works, the lens, a very simple technology that it can be quite bigger. What was the trigger what triggered that thing, that change?
I can imagine that is something every one of us would like have a little shifted answer to that. But I hopefully I can say that for all of us, that we of course then saw a lot of video performances, VJing, setups and stuff like that. So, and we got, at some point, we got a little bored about watching apples all the time or stuff like that, right? So, and still, we are, of course, we do love computers as well, and they kind of play a role in some parts.
Yeah, but it's more like something
practical.
Not interested in an artistic point of view.
Absolutely, but then like to compare like a computer as a video machine, for example, and put next to that computer an overhead projector, for example, a beautiful machine where you can like see what the performer in that case does in real time, and on the same time see like the projection, which is like not that often that you can see that, maybe a little bit in the Algorave scene where you can see the live code next to the outcome. And of course these things change, but that, I think that was a trigger point. But I think you can add.
I guess it isn't one answer for all of us, but it's getting near what Jan says. There were some points where we got bored with what's with the visual art scene, what's happening. But then, for myself, for example, I came from video art, and I was interested in how to get more and more space to video. And at some point, I woke up and was like, okay, but why? When I want to work with spatial relations, then I have to go into space, and I have to work with haptics and with objects. And so suddenly it shifted, and I started to love to touch things and to work with it like in a haptical way. And suddenly there was kind of a completely different approach to working in space and with space. But as Jan also said, we love computers. It's not about, oh God, get rid of these machines, but it's remembering where we came from somehow. Like we have these beautiful tools, and we can do a lot with it. And if you get back to not only pushing the buttons, and then suddenly you realize, okay, with these 10 things of these, you can do crazy stuff. And yeah, we started to love it.
Yeah, already the machine I mentioned, right? We did a lot like this over, and still absolutely in love with that simple machine. It is awesome, and if I have a video mix-up desk or overhead projector, I'm pretty sure I would like, or at least try to combine both. But I don't know the answer for that yet. Maybe. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So then I think we continue a little bit when there's not a concrete question.
Maybe one thing, because if there's any question, like always, just raise your hand, because it's much more fun to get into exchange somehow. So if there's anything, just shout.
Yeah, going to the Electric Mistletoe, which is like the translation of that. It is a tree-adaptive instrument which is reacting to its surrounding environmental sounds and influence the light sequence of the machine or of the mistletoe, which is like an in-between a plant and a machine. And I think we show you the video and then talk a little bit more.
Più di qualsiasi altra arte.
So here again you see a little bit more details of the mistletoe itself. It's just like a little circuitry which is like in a kind of white grayish part in the middle, and you got a little knob where you can adjust how much of the sound surroundings is like how the intensity of it. And then we did like different objects with like from really like flickering to like really slow fading stuff to and I don't know how much of these objects we did in the end, but it's a bunch. Do you know that?
Maybe around 10, but it's kind of fluctuating because they we have them since, I don't know, we started in 2016.
Yeah.
Maybe. So some of them are kind of really old and rusty and losing parts and stuff, and so we have to recreate these things. So it's a kind of a changing number somehow. But it was kind of an interesting project that was with which we traveled a lot somehow. Or in another way, if we travel somewhere, we could take these easily with us. It's also something because we have these flexible arms and you can like crunch it like really small and then have it in a suitcase, like 8 of these and travel with it. And this was also like a project to work with this basis of architecture. And in the center of this art piece are trees and plants. Because we realized, okay, we're working with a lot of like organic ideas and organic structures, and this is also like a moment where we had when realizing, okay, we have these beautiful participants in urban landscapes. We have like trees standing less and less, but standing everywhere somehow, and hopefully more and more again. But this was kind of highlighting these participants of the urban life and in adapting these parasitic machines into the trees and then projecting the inner structure of the trees outside on the architecture. And this was by manipulated and steered by the sounds of the cities somehow. So what happened is also really nice that people started to shout to the trees and sing to the trees, and so some of the trees were answering in like with shadow place.
Yeah, I was just switching on, like that's a mini version of it because we find it so useful. You can always have it in the back and like being ready wherever you are. That's pretty good. Working with a battery and lasts for really a long time. Like I think the longest was like 2 days or something like that. So pretty good. And we can just leave it in the trees or wherever they are for a certain time. But yeah, of course, they're getting rusty over the years, and we are pretty sure working on them. Maybe more functions, more stable weather situation, weather care. It's never at the end. So then we switch to the Lichtkern. We have been invited to a kind of really nice city in the Netherlands and Holland, where we played on the boat just with some of our material, and then during that time there, an idea was born, and this is what we are going to show you next. We doing projections on the surrounding state and tunnels, and there was a huge light art festival, and there was a lot of people in the city on their way, and so we stopped and circled around wherever we find like an audience, kind of. And being on the boat, we just prepared like some little LEDs that we are working with and put them in like juice bottles and try to get them water resistance as much as we could, like on just like randomly kind of. And then with that idea there was a new project was born, which is the audiovisual buoy or buoy, which in the end is what you officially know as a buoy on the sea or on the lake, on the river sometimes. And we build a circuitry inside of it.
Here it's a logical linear thing from two water stuff. But it's also we have this this linear thing or non-linear. I don't know if it's linear if you're going from car. We have it like Moritz showed like the predecessor of all our mobile stuff was this big bus, this Volkswagen bus, and we transformed this one. And but then realized, okay, a car, okay, what's next? Yeah, it was the bicycles, and then what's next? It was the Hacken Porsche, and then at some point we were like, when we were invited first time, oh no, we had some like always like festivals where you have like water, and always we always wonder about places where you wouldn't make art somehow. So we have places most where other people wouldn't make art, and this was some place also on a boat. To have it like as a performance place, this really small boat was really attractive to us. And then sitting on the boat and having some rum, we also thought about, okay, we need some more swimming technology, like the stuff that really can interact with the surface of the water or underneath the water. And so we started to think about these buoys. I don't know how to pronounce this in English. But these floating things.
What's the Spanish word for it?
Boyas.
Boyas. Okay. So we like it much more. We call it from now on boyas.
Yeah, but try not to say the B too strong.
Okay.
If you say boyas, it's something else.
I know. That word I know. Yeah. Okay. I try my best.
So not, what we shouldn't say boys?
No, you can do it.
Okay. Yeah, so it was interesting to suddenly build something that is really waterproof. I don't know if you tried, but if you build your own piece of technology and have to make it really waterproof, it's kind of pain in the ass. So you have to be like really precise, and that's not a feature we really have. Like being really precise and really find every little crack and you have to get it like really waterproof, because otherwise you have like 5 minutes of fun and then it's done. But somehow we managed these things, and but we actually we are still looking, because it was kind of, we only had only one occasion where we presented this, and then when started this Corona stuff, and now we are, as you might imagine, traveling not very much. But originally these are for the festivals where you have this water, these beautiful waterscapes somehow, and we also wanted to work with this.
Yeah, and hopefully in a month we are going to show it in Portugal on a festival, and like in 2 weeks, I'm still hoping, and like in 2 weeks we are going to show it like on a little castle which is surrounded by a water. Yeah, I don't know how it's called, like that water circle castle thing. We are going to show it there. Yeah, and then hopefully we are traveling with it a lot to festivals after Corona, or if we do have like new concepts. Yeah.
Yeah, this is
well,
maybe when you say new concepts, this is somehow we managed to, I don't know how to say this without blaming ourselves. Somehow we managed to always do the same and always transform it in the next weird form. So we managed to have like some approach of designing and making art, but then always letting it jump into the next evolutionary form. So in the core, I guess our approaches are quite similar to every project, but then it's always like get a slight twist, a slight mutation to the next step and the next evolutionary thing going on.
Yeah. Same for the technique. So as you can see up here, the LEDs, for example, it took us some time to choose the right LEDs, because they have to be very small and very bright to make proper projection. If you're working with lenses, or if you're not and you're just doing the shadow play, it's still very important. So it took us some time, and then we found very good LEDs and so on, and all this became the standard, so that we're using all the same plugs or whatever, and the same LEDs, the same drivers for the LEDs. And so if you once get through this, you can rely on that. You can work with that. You can talk about all this stuff. Especially when you're working in a group, it's very important that you have the same vocabulary, that you have the same electronics at home, and so on and so on.
Yeah, so that was which is actually in the museum. So we're gonna read that off like in upcoming weeks. It is called der Zwischenraum, which means in the space in between, because it's placed on glass. So we have like the huge window front of the museum, and then we painted like circles out of buttermilk, which is like a nice material where you can project through on one hand, and you can easily rip it off again. So here movements from the passengers walking by are going censored and monitored, so to say, and then a little robot, which is in these photos not easy to see. Over here there's one part, we call it like crabs, or can you show a crab? No, you can't. And these window crabs, so to say, is scratching like movements from the sensors into that that covering of the buttermilk, so and make little tiny scratches so that you have a pretty interesting scribble in the end on the glass surface, and you could look through that more and more. That longer the work is on the window, yeah, the less you see from that circling buttermilk stuff. And so a lot of like simple movements from left to right, down to up, is really reactable to the people walking by. Another work is that Prismatic Circuitry, where yeah, it's, I would say, like one of the first times that we do have, yeah, that you can frame some of our works somehow, but also not on the same way. It is mostly made for galleries, and I don't know if you wanna add something to that. Here we have another.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. Is there something to add? We are not. Maybe we are not really gallery artists, and we didn't manage to sell these in a way. And we realized that, like, I don't know when this time was. We really love this kind of work, but we also realized, and we knew it, like from the beginning, we didn't want to do art you can sell in a way that doesn't matter. But this was kind of also like a commentary, a comment to like these framed works. We have these open circuits, and somehow made a frame around it, but then had it a bit far from the wall, so the light was breaking out of the frame, and it was crashing this situation. And I still like this work, but it's but in general we as RaumZeitPiraten are not working in gallery context, only like temporarily. But when I say working, like I mean working in a context of art market. We can't and don't want to manage to sell a lot of pieces, because somehow these pieces are ourselves in a way, and we can't give them to you in a way. And instead we have like the Octopus Garden to grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and you can visit this and interact with it and play with it. So maybe this is kind of still not ended thought of, okay, what's about the RaumZeitPiraten and the art market, because it's not a big friendship.
Yeah. That's why we invent stuff like drafts for zero gravity. Maybe that's a good link to that. Which is also, I would say, like a series of works that we did in different houses, museums, galleries, off spaces, wherever, which we are doing since a while. But actually we are having a running exhibition at the moment in a museum in Düsseldorf, which hopefully we do have like a little material to show. I know we have a video from. So here you can see like always like that rhizomatic structure, and we also have like a rule to how to build it. That we can just like communicate as a group, like we need like little hints or like kind of rules that we can all focus on, that we because as we already mentioned, we are working like in 3 different cities, and then there is the date when we have a setup, and somehow that have to work, right? And we have to know what the others have prepared, and the other way around. So
yes, yeah, maybe. I don't know why I started this, but maybe from the thing with the art market and now to the museum stuff, we have to live from something, and so we have to do art that can be paid somehow, and then but it's always like this temporary art. So we have these installations, like the drafts for zero gravities, like you see here in my background, the actual, like the now running installation in Düsseldorf. And so it's more like you can't buy this stuff because it's kind of really, yeah, really annoying media art things. It's kind of, I don't want to see the guy who cares about this over the years. So it's kind of a very complex structure that also grew, but with coming back to the rules, Jan said it's not like we have like a big book of rules, but we always think about like different kinds of approaches. Like we have the Octopus Garden, like we have this outside very organic stuff and the plants with it, and plants growing through the technology, and the plants at the center of our works, and the adaptive approach and connecting plants with technology. And then here we have something in a way purer in the technology part, because it's kind of you have no more organic arts in it, but you have the organic thought in it somehow, like the construction of machines in an organic way. And in the end, it's a very fragile system of complex things going on, and very interrelated stuff going on, with a lot of sensors. And here we also going back to the digital stuff. We have like the microcontrollers and Raspberry Pis in it, and start to pimp it up in the digital way, but also like now with a really long background, or I mean, yeah, 15 years is kind of a background in the analog world, and now we taking this and trying like very carefully implement the digital world again. And so this draft for zero gravity is kind of like a very technophile approach, but suddenly we realize, okay, it still has all the organic thoughts in it we had before. And so this is kind of an interesting thing that's right now very present in our minds to work with and to get on with. Like to even stronger think about what would happen if machines have no right nodes, or like all architecture, everything around us. What is it without right angles and without the horizontal and the vertical? Sorry, vertical and horizontal. No, vertical, horizontal. I always mix it up, and then we have it. If you stop to bother about horizontal and vertical. And suddenly you have this very strange organic structures growing through each other and working with each other. And at the end, we don't know what these machines are doing. They're starting to get their own will. And so maybe this is kind of a trick to avoid something, to reach something else.
Yeah, and I would maybe add that, of course, like since pandemic times, we had to think about like maybe that other level. If like we did like a huge installation in a museum, for example, that's where like the test starting was in a museum, where no one could enter in. So we had to think about like how to transform that into the virtual world somehow, and that was maybe then the kickoff, like how to still build a physical sculpture, and on the other hand, like integrate like some perspectives that a visitor who would or could visit like the piece itself maybe didn't have the same perspective as we would add like on the virtual way. So but this is like, I would say, like still in the making, and we are thinking about a lot of these issues and topics, and of course we are very happy that actually like the situation in that one museum is a little bit more normal, not like it used to be before, and I think maybe it never will, but it's a bit more normal that there are like constantly people visiting it, that I mean much smaller groups, of course, but there's an interaction and like a not that big distance to a physical experience, maybe so. And yeah, I don't know, still open and thinking about like whatever happens, how can we interact and react to the situation. I think we are. I just switched a little bit further because of the time, and we can talk as a final project maybe about the communication prosthesis. Would that be okay, Toby?
What do you mean?
We are a little, I mean, we talked a lot, and we maybe should now go to the communication prosthesis.
Sure. You look at the time. I just
yes.
Follow.
Yeah. If that's fine for all of you, then we should do that as one of our last things, and then have maybe the open Q&A, whatever. Okay, these are like wearable instruments. So we did a series of wearable communication prosthesis, how we call it, and I will play one video. That's the color synth.
We are not yet there to swallow it and to have it inside, but it will happen. These are like the closest it came, like the body at the center of the technology, and like a playful approach to our extremities, to work with the hands and stuff, and have it like really close to these things. And one thing was the color things we saw. It was a kind of a fun project to have this musical instrument and play all the colors around you. And yeah, we also need, I think we should exhibit this one more. I really now enjoy this. And so it was the idea, okay, how can we even more emphasize the body and the haptical approach, even if this is also kind of a digitally a project in some ways. Some of this is also with microcontrollers and stuff, but some of this is also like really simple, like with the one with the pinkies here. It's kind of just the thing we saw in Tunis, but then strapped to the hand directly, and suddenly you have all the fingers to move the shadow play. So you have 5 objects with magnets, and can like change the whole situation by moving the fingers. So this was kind of also a fun project, which will have at some day a next step, I guess.
Yeah, and maybe then finally, but a quick one is like partly of what you see in the first place here, but it is like the Opto-Acoustic travel instruments that are all built in like suitcases, where we can just close them down and jump into the airplane, train, whatever, and just being ready to somehow perform with the environment in a open space wherever we like to. This was like a funded project that we did like 2018, but it's still also like continuing, like with which modules we are building, which add-ons we are, because even if we are performing live, then we realize so now we need a rhythmatic machine that you presented, for example, like little tools that you can attach to what you find on site to work with that much more, and then it's never at an end, I would say, but we do have our basic tools that we can carry around easily. So. And some of them are also like battery driven, which is like super nice if you want to switch from dark industrial club to the forest nearby. So then we can do both in the end. Yeah. Yeah.
So you say that's it, or when do we stop? At 8?
Yeah, I think we needed some time for like a Q&A round, and then
okay.
I think we are fine, right?
Yeah, we are fine.
I mean, it was a lot. We can talk on and on, but maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah, but in general, thanks for the invitation. It was fun to be here.
Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, I wanted to give some feedback because I know how it is to be at the other side and not seeing people's faces, so I just wanted to say thank you. I like your work a lot. And I found a lot of common places with mine, but with another perspective, which is light, and I love to see this. Like a lot of common concepts and ideas and whys. For example, what you were saying about the traveling, that's a problem I often have. Mm-hmm. I also build things too big, and then you build something else responding that issue. You have to travel with this thing to sometimes go to a festival or something, and it was really exciting to see all these common issues and solvings and whatever. So yeah, just say thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I have to mirror that back because when I was in the audience on the other side, I mean, I didn't get all of it. I tried to get as many Spanish words as you, but of course I could see like a lot of like concepts and projects which are amazingly done and really interesting, and we hope to talk on.
Yeah, sure, later maybe.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah, cool.
I have a little question, and
it was really nice to see your partners also like playing with things and no.
Yeah.
So while you were talking, or the other one was explaining something to us, and as you were getting more analogic in the projects. For me, it was amazing to think that you were working in 3 different cities. So, no, because I do theater and
contemporary theater. So for me, to be together in a place working, it's very, I'm really used to that, you know. So my question is more about the process, you know? About how do you create from the concept maybe, or from the materials being in 3 different cities.
Yeah, I mean, it really started like we are kind of, we have 3 times a week, we have a proper schedule for office times, to be honest. So maybe very German, I don't know, but I mean, we do have like a proper time where we are online and talking about like the incoming mails, the whatever projects that are future projects, or like a funding that is like have an open call, and like then we discuss like if we are going to apply for that or not. And this is like really most of the time a starting point. And of course in between we met each other, and then sometimes it's also of course helpful like to be all together, and then it has a different focus, I would say. But the mixture.
Residencies, so you meet together for.
You have a working space. That was also my question.
No, we have like 3 studios. Which is like good in a way, because I mean, we tried some years ago. We had like a one huge studio where we all came and met on a more daily base. But of course, it's like easier for everyone have it in its own city, have their space, like to just if you can't sleep at night, you go down and do something, or a bit more like that, and yeah, then have like that daily routine, I would say, in communication. That's a big thing, and from there things can start. And then of course sometimes we just make an appointment, and we have to come to this or that studio, and get the heads a bit closer together. Yeah, but this is like a routine, I would say.
I'm not sure if we can't really hear this good, what comes from the audience. I'm not sure what the question exactly was. But when it's about when it was about working processes and studio, here you see like studios sometimes sound so big, but it's some of us only have like a small room, and then we have to be quite organized to not let it explode. And then we start to, this is also like why we have to be very modular in a way, to work on small scale things that can adapt to each other and then get bigger. And so a whole Octopus Garden wouldn't fit in any of our places, to be true. It only fits in our suitcases and in our cases, and then it has to travel, and then it like pops up and explodes in like huge gardens or caves and stuff. So it's kind of also how to work with very limited space, but then temporarily pop up and then disappear again. And this is also like interesting work with over 3 cities, because we most of the time we really come together on these exhibition occasions and on festivals, and then we kind of have some good days and have some drinks and do this art, and then new ideas pop up, and then we like in a constant digitally connection, like with the with video conference and Telegram chats, like it's kind of like a constant digital communication, like a very close communication without seeing us every day. So it's like over the years it was like for us the most practical way to go on. Everybody has his own studio at his living place. For me, it's totally difficult to travel somewhere, or to go to the next city, or even if it's only by bike like 20 minutes, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it every day, but now I have like my small studio in my living place, and so I'm here every night. I'm working every night till 4 o'clock. But it's kind of it's part of the fun. So yeah.
Yeah, and but maybe like you have seen like that light boat, for example, and that was a moment when a new idea was born, because we were like for a whole weekend we were like so close to each other. Then maybe that triggers a bit faster, or like the aphorism of that moment is gets a bit bigger. But then we take it back home, and then continuing that on the digital virtual way. So, yeah, I think it's a combination of all of it, but the main goal is, I think, to stay in a close conversation all the time, and having debates, arguing, being pissed off each other. Sometimes it's the same, and the other way around. So love each other at the same time. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
We can come here and see
Sure,
you.
sure.